Hello, my name is Alexandra Harley, and I am recording this on the 6th of November 2024. And the weather outside here in London is murky and wintry damp. We may also get interrupted by fireworks going off outside. I came from a very rural East Anglia to do my degree many years ago, and I've never quite managed to leave. Despite my parents' concern for me being an art student and in London, they were cautiously supportive, really proud, but extremely concerned. I was accepted to do my BA at Wimbledon School of Art, which was an amazing experience. It was a very material-focused course, and the skills I gained have been invaluable: welding, carving, as well as rigorous thinking and discussion. I had some brilliant tutors, and I'm still in touch with some of them via the Brancaster Chronicles. This is a crit group which meets in our respective studios, and we record the discussion. From Wimbledon, I spent 2 glorious years at St Martin's, again challenging and hard work, but so valuable. I managed to get an Acme studio as soon as I left college, which maintained the momentum from graduating, and I've continued making sculpture ever since. The materials immersion I had at college was brilliant, and the skills I learned have stayed with me. I have a materials-led practice still, and there's always so much to learn, and it's very easy to be seduced by all the new materials that are coming onto the market. Coming from a rural background, I wasn't engaged with any art at all. I was intrigued by one of my art teachers at school, who was having exhibitions, but I didn't think it was a career for me. The start of my practice is firmly rooted in its inception at my foundation course in Colchester, and it became clear very early on that I needed a sculpture course to do my degree. I'm influenced by whatever I see around me. I use different aspects of all sorts of places and things to aid my thinking and making. Currently, the painted ceramic has led me to research camouflage, and I had no idea that there were so many military variations. And Anglo-Saxon boat construction has informed the sewn wood sculptures. I'm a member of the Royal Society of Sculptors and the London Group, and I'm always impressed by the work of my colleagues, not just other sculptors. Painters are also massively influential. In particular, Alan Gauck and Fred Pollock are amazing. But sculptors Catherine Gilly, Robin Greenwood and Tony Smart, who taught me at college, make superb work, and I'm still in touch with all of them. Other artists are always helpful when you need technical information. While I was on my foundation course, the sculptor David Smith was a huge inspiration, and I'm still a fan. Rodin and Tony Caro became prominent at university. But it's astonishing that even when you think you know a sculpture or another artist's work, you can still find something fresh each time you look. I always have several works on the go at any one time, so right now I'm making it a priority to finish something before I start anything new. The studio is rather chaotic with works in progress. Some sculptures take years to complete. They're almost there, but not quite, and they have to sit in the corner of the studio staring at me until I see what needs to be done. Right now I'm exploring sewing and tying techniques using wire on both my wood and with my ceramic. I construct my sculptures, sometimes with many, many individual elements, and finding ways to build and assemble is exciting. This has led to the wire having an important role, not just as a link, but as an additional element within the piece. I had a much-needed clear-up in the workshop today, a move about, sorting out, and I cleared some space. I use this as thinking time. I find things that have been buried, I see pieces in a new light as I reposition them, and I come across barely started works that I feel ready to continue. Today I set out some ceramic elements that I will be working on and thinking about the colour schemes I shall be using. I'm working towards a show with a group talking sculpture making with Jill Brent and Sheila Volmer later this year, so I'm getting work made ready for that. When I'm not in the studio, fundraising and admin take up far, far too much time, but they are very essential things. I think the greatest challenge for a lot of artists is never having enough time. Jobs, family, admin, gallery visits, they all take time out of the studio. I think things are worse now than when I graduated, as studios were more easily available and certainly cheaper, and definitely closer. So many studios are being pushed out to the periphery of towns and cities, making the commute longer. I used to be able to pop into my first studio. That doesn't happen anymore. Advice to my younger self. I think I really wish I'd taken the advice to be bold, not to be shy, don't hold back, and to be proud of your work. It's tough out there, and I think we really have to blow our own trumpet. Having a materials-led practice means that I do experiment with different materials. I tried making a sculpture using roofing felt once. As many of my ideas start out in paper, I thought that a roll of roofing felt might be an interesting extension of that. It obviously behaved very differently to the thick card and paper I often work with, and it was really hard on my hands, but the work looked okay. I've tried painting it different colours several times, and I've finally settled on yellow, which looks great, much more buoyant than the original colour. So I'm always open to exploring ways of working and materials which will enhance the sculpture. I never have the radio on when I'm in the studio, especially when I'm trying to concentrate. But even when I'm not having to think, so when I might be sawing, rolling out clay, sanding or something, a job that doesn't need any concentration, it's usually too noisy and I can't hear the radio anyway. If I am doing something quiet, the radio is usually set to Radio 3, though Resonance FM gets a look in too. However, I tune into Italian radio stations, pop music, when I'm working with wax. I had a fantastic opportunity to work at the Mariani Foundry in Italy, and in the wax room I had no choice but to accept whatever the guys were in there were listening to. So working with wax, listening to Italian pop transports me back there, and that's fantastic. The standout moment for me at a gallery was at the Royal Society of Sculptors, where I had a carved and constructed applewood sculpture selected for an exhibition. I took my friend Lee and her guide dog Josh along, and clearly Lee is somebody with a visual impairment. So she could see my sculpture, I'd given permission for visually impaired people to touch the sculpture. Other visitors also wanted to experience the sculpture more fully, one person declaring she couldn't see very well, and she started a queue. But people were really respectful while they sniffed it, stroked it, hugged it. And I found it gave people permission to talk about the work, and there were a lot of questions. People became quite animated, and it was a really lovely moment in the gallery. But children are always great at asking pertinent questions and getting right to the heart of a sculpture, and they're fantastic. I hope people are intrigued enough to want to get involved with my sculptures and ask questions. People have very different reactions to my work, and it's not for me to dictate how people will view it. Everyone brings their own life experience to the gallery. I want my work to be abstract with no visible references, and I want people to look and have a personal response. I'm always happy to answer questions. There's no discernible narrative in the sculptures, no reflection of self other than my making. So I think people become interested in the material, the making, and often the emotion of the sculpture. Observers often use words like tactile, gentle, lively, so there's a greater emotional engagement. On Instagram, I am at Harley Sculpture, and I have a show on right now called Small Wonders with the London group at the Croydon Art Space until the 19th of December. I am a founder member of Talking Sculpture Making, and on Instagram we are at Talking Sculpture Making. And the other two members are amazing sculptors, Gillian Brent and Sheila Vollmer. And in December this year and January, we will have a show at the Haifa Studios in Stratford, East London. And we've invited 6 other artists to show alongside us, 3 painters and 3 sculptors. At each exhibition, we have a public discussion around women making abstract sculpture. So including painters this time is going to be really interesting. The other artists are Beatrice Galetli, Day Bowman, Charlotte Cullen, Ellen Ranson, Katrina Cowling, and Jackie Askew. They're really, really interesting artists, and I'm really looking forward to the show. And we are delighted that the eminent writer and curator Natalie Rudd has agreed to chair the discussion. In April next year, I'm showing alongside the painter Noella Bury at a fantastic little gallery in Stroud. And I'm very privileged being a member of the Royal Society of Sculptors, the London group, and the Free Painters and Sculptors, as I have a lot of opportunities to exhibit alongside some astonishingly amazing artists.